Case number 2. Strangers on a train. For the life of him, the man could not understand why he had the need to be at the train station at such an ungodly hour. His trip had been a pleasant one. He was traveling with a fellow companion, and all was well at home. Why was he in such a damn hurry? The only thing he could put his finger on was the fact that he was compelled to be there. Times were tough. They always were during a war. Well into its 4th year, the United States was again at war with her enemies. Rationing by the government made things difficult for most, but Edwin had his admirers. Delicious foods and things left to more affluent people came into his hands quickly. He was an actor, and in troubled times such as these, actors were also treasured commodities. Many a lady gave to him all they could, hoping for just a brief interlude. Edwin, of course, politely exchanged embraces, but never executed them to bribe or falsify. He was an honorable man. New Jersey weather was intolerable for Edwin, and his knee was bothering him yet again. The man had injured himself many years ago while performing Julius Caesar in a run-down Manhattan theater, and whenever the weather felt bad, so did he. He took the discomfort in stride. It helped him predict when and when not to accompany himself with an umbrella.
I have the tickets, my friend.
Edwin turned to see his friend John. John was on holiday, and both were heading back to Washington for business. John happened to own a quaint little theater Edwin was interested in, and there had been discussions about scheduling future shows and times. "You are the man of the hour," Edwin stated, taking the ticket. The men did what was natural in a station. They waited. Something made Edwin look toward the train. The actor noticed a group of people gathering around a well-dressed gentleman who had decided to pass his time reading the local paper and smoking an expensive cigar. Edwin envied the man. He could use a good calming smoke himself. Noise could be heard gathering at the front of the station. War protesters were doing their best to create a destructive and unpatriotic mood for all. Having the freedom to express one's dislike of certain situations was so inconvenient at times. "John, do you know that man?" Edwin inquired, pointing towards the well-dressed gentleman. John squinted and studied his subject.
Looks familiar.
"Is that all?" Edwin gawked, staring back at John in disbelief. "Looks familiar?"
Edwin, everyone seems like everyone else in Washington.
The signal was given for the train to start its departure from the station. Edwin and John picked up their baggage. It was good to be moving once again. From the corner of his eye, Edwin saw people pushing the well-dressed man dangerously toward his train. The man was too occupied with his reading to know what was going on about him. There was a subtle matter of concern. "John, hold my bags for a moment." John was left confused. A group of angry passengers had been busy with the local conductor, purchasing their sleep cars as the train started to give out her signals for boarding. The actor covered his ears, having never been a fan of the escaping noise of steam. The well-dressed gentleman seemed to be nowhere in sight. What the devil? People rushed to and fro, causing Edwin to rise and lower himself, hoping to dodge all in his trying to find his target. Then he spotted a trail of cigar smoke. It ran dangerously close to the train tracks. "Good heavens," was all the man could say. Instantly, he ran toward the tracks. A pair of weak, white hands held tightly to the railings of a nearby railcar. Edwin followed them, noticing that the well-dressed man was hanging on for dear life. With all the activity and noise going on around him, Edwin surmised that the man had been accidentally pushed overboard, hanging on by sheer will. Edwin bounced into action. "John, call the chief conductor," Edwin shouted back at his friend. John, having no idea what was going on, stood motionless, looking silly, holding 6 bags. "Quick, man, give me your hand!" Edwin placed himself between the train and the dock. One swift move from either could have ended his life. Desperately grabbing hold of Edwin's arm, the well-dressed gentleman pulled with all his might. Edwin winced. The man was stout. The train had started to move.
"Pull!"
the well-dressed gentleman pleaded. As the men fell backward onto the boarding stage of the train, the sleeping car banged up against the concrete and wooden platform. At the least, the well-dressed man would have been injured severely. At the most, well, Edwin did not want to think about that. "Well now, dear sir," Edwin stated, offering his hand to help the man up. "Are you quite all right?" The well-dressed man stuttered.
Dear me, are you not Edwin Booth, the actor?"
"Why, yes." The happy gentleman eagerly accepted Edwin's hand.
"Dear sir, I know your work."
"Indeed."
"Indeed, yes. I am quite the admirer."
He paused, slightly motioning back toward where he had been rescued.
"I thank you for your kind assistance, sir. I found myself the victim of my own clumsiness, ending up in a rather bad pickle, if I do say so myself. Thank you. Thank you."
Edwin bowed with humility. It was a practice act, one every actor learned early in their career. "May I inquire, sir, as to your name?" Edwin stated. "You look familiar to me, and I am just curious,"
"Of course.
the well-dressed gentleman stated.
I am Robert Todd Lincoln."
"Lincoln?" Edwin inquired. "Surely not the son of our great president?"
"The same, sir. I am heading down to the executive mansion just now to meet with my parents."
Edwin was at a loss for words. The men eagerly exchanged their good fellowships, not realizing the fates that lay ahead for both of them. For on April 14, 1865, Edwin's younger brother, John Wilkes Booth, would commit the first presidential assassination upon Robert Todd Lincoln's father, Abraham Lincoln. Also, the incident itself would take place in John's Theater. Edwin's traveling friend, John T. Ford, was the owner of Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Coincidences are strange and uncomfortable things. They cause us to look back on the actions we have taken in our lives and ponder the question, is there more to what we are doing that can be explained? Robert Lincoln rarely spoke about the Booth incident. He did, however, write several letters on the subject. He held no hard feelings towards Edwin. Edwin Booth's career was almost destroyed when his brother killed the president. Unlike John Wilkes Booth, Edwin had been a Unionist and considered Abraham Lincoln the last best hope for the nation. The only thing that kept the man from insanity and ruin was in his knowing that he had saved Lincoln's son from what could have been a painful and terrible death. After years of shame and self-seclusion, Edwin returned to the stage. To this day, he holds the professional record for the most performances of Hamlet in America. Fear haunted Edwin, thinking the public would hate him for what his brother had done. But his demons evaporated when appearing upon the stage after a 3-year absence to roaring applause. Men and women reacted so positively toward his return to the stage that the production of the play had to be stopped due to the whoops and cries thundering in the theater. Edwin could be coaxed into telling his Lincoln story, but he never thought it appropriate to put it down in writing. He was too ashamed of his younger brother. So, what was it that had made Edwin go to the train station that day? If you would be interested to read some of my personal works, please go to my website at donaldallenkirch.com. This has been Stranger Than Fiction, case number 2, Strangers at a Train. Thank you.